we are here with a very special guest, Dina Booth. Now, I've said to you guys before on the show, when you want to know something that's happening you want a topic covered on the show, write to us, and we will try to make that happen. And somebody wrote to us and said, hey, we want you to cover how to prep somebody for middle school, and we have a recommendation. Dina Booth is the amazing person to talk about this. And boy, did I find out that's the truth. So welcome to the show. And you, first of all, let's talk a little bit about what your background is, because you have extensive experience in this field of middle school.
I started teaching high school for kids with emotional disturbances, and then moved to middle school, which I adore. Middle school kids are just
that takes a special person.
Well,
because I've taught some middle school too, and I love them to an extent, but they're a special population.
Yes, they are.
And I'm talking about on the spectrum, off the spectrum. That is a funky age range where it's hormone city.
Yes, I talk about all middle school students are special ed. There's no difference.
They've all got stuff going on.
Yeah,
they have challenges because it's a busy time in their little bodies.
Yeah, all of that going in, and then all the social pressures and all of the changes.
Rough.
It can be very rough.
Yeah,
very rough. So, but I found it just delightful.
You love it.
It's also amazing the growth you see and the amazing blooming of this person that's coming out. And so I spent 12 years at Paul Revere Middle School with LAUSD, teaching a class for students with high-functioning autism. So these were kids that needed to be in the general education program for their academics. That's where they belong. They can manage those academics. They need that stimulation. That's where they belong. But they have deficits and needs that need to be looked after that are a little more than a resource teacher can handle. So sometimes resource is not the best.
And that's important for us to hear. And first of all, we have to say, I mean, I feel like I'm sitting here with a saint, because a lot of times we hear the horror stories of things that happen in schools and teachers who aren't interested and don't want to know. And we always talk about the fact that there are angels that walk among us, and clearly you're one of them. So first of all, I want to thank you for your service, for loving our kids and wanting to educate them and seeing them as the individuals that they are. That's, out the gate, thank you for that. And now you've come to us with a bunch of helpful information about what you learned over the years can be helpful. And we were talking before we came on about how it's, there's a toolbox sort of that you've given us. And each tool is not going to be right for each individual, because we know one size doesn't fit all. But Dina, this is good information. I mean, I'm getting chills, because this, as we're getting ready to start 6th grade with my son, I saw things on here and I went, okay, I haven't thought about that. So let's start with talking about, in general, for middle school. You gave me this lovely list of things that we need to be mindful of. So help us to know some of these things.
Well, the first thing, I think the most important, especially as parents, this is brand new territory. You're moving in to a place, you're going from this small environment where you've had a lot of input. Sometimes you've been spending time on the campus with your child. You knew all the teachers.
Oh yeah, we were room moms.
Yeah, room moms and the whole thing. And because you know what the needs are, you were there. You were able to be there. And now you're moving into an environment where you will not be as welcome. I'm not saying you're not welcome, but and it is time. It's time for you to start backing up a little bit.
Yeah, for everybody's sake.
Yes.
For the teacher's sake, for the other kids' sake, for our sake, and for our child's sake.
And so that they can start taking more ownership of what's going on in their lives. It's important. It's important.
But you need to drag us kicking and screaming.
Exactly.
And I'm one of those people.
It is frightening. And I'll tell you, my son went to Paul Revere Middle School, the school I taught at, and he had a minor disability, a minor learning disability. It wasn't big, but I thought we would never make it through 6th grade. It was it's not just for our kids on the spectrum, but for all of our kids. All the kids. So, but what you need to realize is that the child is now coming into an environment. I mean, our kids were coming from schools 300, 500 kids. There are 2,000 kids at Fall River Middle School.
Yeah.
So just in terms of the sensory input, bells ringing, kids screaming, teachers yelling, giving instructions.
People bumping into each other in the hallway.
The halls are like, I don't like going out there. Anyway, and then you've got all this new social pressures in input. Incredible, because middle school is, these are people and I have to interact with them, and there's boys and there's girls, and it's so much.
Yeah, it is.
So you've got that. Then you've got the academic pressure. Everything comes up a notch. Now we're dealing with more abstract kinds of information coming in, and more demands, especially writing demands, which can sometimes be an issue for our kids. And now the child is expected to meet all of these incredible increase of input.
Well, and one of the things I'm noticing is that in all the earlier years, they got an assignment, and here's the assignment, and it's self-contained. And now everything has some element of a project.
Yes.
That you have to take this, put it together with this, morph it into that, and then slap this on it, and then remember to bring it. It's a lot of executive function skills to be able to carry that all through for anyone.
For anyone.
As a parent, sometimes I'm failing.
Right.
So it's a lot.
It's a lot, and that's of course the organizational issues are epic.
Yes,
as we know.
That is
for
the
most
right word,
of our
isn't it?
kids.
Yeah. Well, and for some of us as well. I think I struggle in that area. Yeah. So, and I think it's important for us to acknowledge as parents that we have deficits in some of these areas too. I will sit at the table and cry sometimes and go, I was quoted so many times this last year saying, I didn't like 5th grade math the first time. Why am I having to do it again? Yeah. So tough times.
Yeah.
But you've got some things here for us to consider once we get our heads wrapped around all of that.